Welcome to the No One Tells You This podcast. I'm Laura Massetti. Most of us spend years figuring out the unwritten rules of work, the things that nobody teaches you, but everyone expects for you to know. Today's guest has spent years on the other side of the table. I would like to welcome Chawan Mehra. He is a technology executive with 30 years of experience building and leading high-performance engineering teams across some of the world's most consequential technology domains: AI, semiconductors, and data center infrastructure. As Vice President of Software Engineering at Intel, he has led and developed a deployment of AI accelerator software stacks that have reached major global customers at scale. He has built organizations from the ground up repeatedly, scaling teams from 0 to hundreds of engineers across multiple geographies and time zones. He's navigated one of the world's most demanding workforce transitions in the industry: 400 engineers, 18 months, skill redesign, retention strategy, and uninterrupted delivery. He holds an MBA from FMS Delhi University and is currently continuing his education at MIT. Above all that, he's a passionate mentor who believes above everything else that how you build your team is just as important as what you build. Welcome. We're so excited to have you. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura, for this introduction. Really excellent or good to talk to you.
Great. So let's get into it. You've been in technology for over 30 years, mobile, data centers, AI. What are the engineering fundamentals that have stayed consistent throughout this period?
Before mobile or data center or AI, it's a long story, early 90s, when engineering was primarily the industrial engineering. I mean, the electronics and the basic software, the embedded software. So, and that's how it has evolved. If you really look at these 30 years, what I spent, starting from the very basic hardware design, software design, industrial, automotive, telecom, and then moving to consumer and AI, data center, and so on and so forth. And I can see next 5-10 years probably for humanoid and quantum, so it will go on. But yes, some things remains constant throughout, and it is the core. You must remain focused on your core. If we specifically focus on engineering, your physics, your mathematics fundamentals, they must always remain strong. Your coding skills, although nowadays AI can code, but in terms of your core, your fundamental understanding of that code, that still remains the same. Language may change. It was Fortran in early 1990s, and then C, and then C++, and the Python, and it's gone. It will go on. But your hold on your fundamentals will remain constant. Technology will change, will evolve, but if you are stick to your fundamentals, you need not to worry anytime.
It's really interesting because technology is changing so quickly. I think that early professionals are not sure which way to go with it in terms of what to study in university and where they should be taking extra courses and, how many languages, right? So it's interesting that you have that perspective of just keeping to the core of what's essential.
Yeah. Don't leave that core part. The rest all will become periphery out of it. And of course, you will learn new technology, you will grow accordingly, but core still remains core.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I was with IBM for quite a few years, and it was, we were always entrenched in learning the newest technology, and it's hard to keep up with. It can get overwhelming to know where you should spend your time because you always want to be the best at everything, but there just seems like there's so much out there that you need to skill up on.
And I can even tell you an interesting thing here. During multiple interviews of say freshers, the students coming out of the college, although they know the digital design or the analog design or the coding, but if I have to ask a question, I really ask a question on a transistor, which is a basic unit of any electronics, just to understand how strong his or her fundamentals are on that. It's not that the person needs to work on transistor, it's not that, but really to understand, because technology will change. Earlier it used to change in 10 years, then 5 years, now 2 years, and now even 6 months. So who knows I really don't know what will happen in 2027 in terms of technology.
Yeah, isn't that scary? It's such a different time now. So you mentioned as far as, what you expect from folks or questions that you ask them to know that they have a pulse on the industry and would be a good contributor. So what do you think? There's so much technical skill out there. There are people that are incredibly intelligent and know the ins and outs of engineering technology. They come out of amazing universities to learn all of this. But what do you think is the difference between being technically excellent and professionally effective? Because I think that's a really large gap that's challenging to solve for.
Yeah, I think Laura, it's an excellent question. And I have seen throughout my career, people really do struggle between these two things, technically excellent and professionally impactful. So technically excellent is something like fundamental. You need to be. If you want to innovate something or want to be in an organization which you want to take it forward. But how to make organization benefit out of your technical competence, that's more important. It's not about you for an organization. It's about how eventually an outcome for an organization which is going out. Is it a product? Is it a service? Is the organization making profit out of your contribution? That's the impact each organization looks for. In my career, in fact, just to give you an example, I have seen many excellent engineers, many excellent engineers. They are very good taking a product or a design, either it is coding or electronics design, from 0 to 90% and rather quickly, or even to 95%. But you will be surprised to know there are really few who can contribute and close this 90% or 95% to 100%. And that's what really valuable for the organization. And that's what the impact organization looks forward. So the initial part of any product design is always, it's new, it's challenging, people like it to do it. But when it reaches to a closure, either people lose motivation or it becomes too complex or lack of interest. But once you make a closure and make it useful for customer, that's what the impact organization looks for.
Yeah, that's really interesting because I'm guilty of this too, right? I get really excited about taking on a big project, all of the fun stuff, and you're so energized. And then it comes to the end of where that closure needs to happen. And that's the ugly stuff. That's the things that no one wants to do.
I agree with you. It's painful because, it's a complex defects in the end, if I talk about, say, software as a part, because they are coming at the end of the cycle. They are always system level defects, very difficult to debug and solve. And once it reaches to customers, it is even more complex because it's a different environment altogether. It's out of the R&D environment to the customer environment. And you have to reproduce the same environment and then resolve and find where exactly is the problem to make it really useful for customer is the thing company look forward and beneficial for all companies and customers.
Yeah. And I think it makes all the difference in being the type of professional that stands out or those that don't. I remember early in my career, I remember some customer crisis calls would come in at crazy hours. We used to call them crit sits. I don't know if that's the industry term or not, but those that picked up the phone and, engaged during the really hard times, it didn't matter what time of hour it was, it made such a difference in maintaining that customer relationship. And I think really as far as like how you're seen within the organization as well as someone that could be relied on. So I hear you on that.
And I have seen many organizations, particularly in previous years, now it is becoming more and more aligned, inward-looking organization and outward-looking organization. So earlier, the organizations had a lot of focus, even now there are many, to the inward processes and strengthening those and all, but less on the outward, which is customer. While customer really needs to be at the center, and then you make it. You must have heard in service industry, if you want to go to a bank to open an account, it's very simple example. They say, okay, yeah, we have a process, fill this form, fill that form, and so on and so forth. But for customer, is it convenient? Probably not. It may have consumed your 30 minutes. So if bank thinks how I can convert this 30 minutes to 5 minutes for customer, that's what the useful for customers.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely right. So, one question that I want to make sure before we move on to the next segment. So, you've learned a lot throughout your time building and scaling organizations. So, what's something that someone you wish that someone would have told you within your first 5 years of work?
Yeah, or even someone would have told me 10 years after of my experience. That would have been even more helpful. Yes, I think there are many things, as we were discussing before, the technical skills or the technical excellence or competence, and that's what I see engineers focus quite a lot. And there are a lot of missing points in terms of the communication and the presentation and how to navigate among different, I don't say it's a power centers, but at least some centers in the organization, how to navigate that. Designing a product, making an excellent design is one thing, but convincing the organization to accept it.
That's so powerful. And I talk about that a lot in my course around the importance of clarity and visibility of your work, because you can be the best at what you do, but if no one knows about it and your process and your start and your end, then it goes unnoticed. And I don't think it's a self-promotion thing. I think it's more of like that's your duty to communicate your job, right? And that helps translates into how do you accelerate your career. So that's a really powerful one.
And even I'll keep it into another perspective, even because that's a good term which you have used now, self-promoting. It's actually not, because until unless you are convinced for something, either your design or your point, and you can't tell to the organization, and if organization misses that part, and if it is good, that's an organization loss. And according to me, organization is built by people. It's not built by machines or a land or building. Organization is built by people. If organization grows, as an individual, each employee will grow. And if each employee grows, by default, overall organization will grow. So they are so embedded to each other. So it's important to give a clarity and communicate and go ahead. So if somebody would have told me in initial 5 years, probably this would have been it would have helped me in my career for sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely. On that point of the people piece of it, I'm so impressed by your background because you've served on a global level, which is an amazing responsibility because it's all different types of people, all different types of culture, different expectations, managing P&Ls, all of that that's needed to manage a global business. So in your experience of growing and scaling these teams, what did this teach you about culture, trust, and what it takes to hold these people together to build your business mission?
Okay, so you touched a topic now which is very close to my heart. The reason is I really find myself very lucky. I joined as an engineer in the industry in very early 1990s. And after 3-4 years of experience, I really got an opportunity in an organization to build the R&D from scratch. So just 3-4 years of an engineering experience, and I have to build the team not only from engineering competence perspective, but from people perspective and the team perspective, and their alignment with the European sites, making the culture of the organization. All those come very soon, and over a period of time I really learned. So I handled various local teams in India, global teams, Europe, US and other APAC countries. Each country has a different culture. I am calling it as Europe, but Europe also has very diverse culture around different countries. In India, in US, so it's all different cultures. They speak different language, they talk differently, they give focus on different aspects. I could see very clearly in my experience, some countries, organizations are very focused on R&D, that initial part of the development. Some are very interested on the process part. Some are very interested on the customer part. So it's all diverse. But one thing is common across. That is, everybody is a human being. Everybody, in terms of the humanity, thinks the same way. And empathy, empathy is, I would say, sometimes widely used word and sometimes misused word as well. When I talk really about empathy, I really don't talk about management language empathy. I'm making a differentiation. Some people may be surprised to listen this, but empathy is very personal to me, and it is true empathy which comes in. So when you talk someone, you really connect to the person, and that's the trust you build. You just can't go to 100 people team and tell guys, come on, and from tomorrow let's create more trust among each other. It doesn't happen that way, right? It's a process. You are there with the team when they need you. Lot of people, lot of countries culture, lot of organization culture differentiate between professional life and personal life. Are we the same as a person? From inside, can we differentiate? It's extremely difficult. We are one person and we are living personal life, professional life. It's all embedded together. As a leader, if there are challenges in somebody's personal life, you are always there if something is needed from you, right? If somebody needs a vacation for a month, okay, irrespective customer deadlines and all, you are there with the person because that's more important for him or her than solving some critical bug. These are some of the examples which really can create the trust. And once this trust is created, then a team starts believing you. And once they start believing you, they start listening you. And once they start listening you, then from organization perspective, you need to work less. The whole team will work more for you.
How do you manage this as you grow as a leader? I mean, you've managed small teams to very large teams. How is that a scalable leadership skill? How do you manage that?
So I think it's once you grow as a leader, your capacity also enhanced to accommodate this. Once team become very large, it's extremely difficult to really talk to each person. By the way, most of the time knew the names of the 400 people team or 500 people team. Each person's name as well. And the reason is because either in corridors or in coffee machines or in meetings, when you talk, you interact, you learn about them. And when you start making an interest in them, then they say, okay, there is a leader who can listen to my problems, my professional challenges, and I can always put it on the table. So they come forward by themselves. And that's how you open the door. So, and then when your first line managers, FLMs, when you talk, always spend some time about their teams, how it is going on, if somebody is well or not well, what are the challenges team is facing. And that's what I have learned. I don't use word as a resource for human being. This really changed my perspective. For me, person, is an employee of the company. Resource is computer, resource is a table, resource is a oscilloscope in the lab. Okay, in Excel sheet you can still use human resource, but to me it's a human. It's not a resource.
Yeah, you sound like an excellent person to work for. Absolutely. And I love what you're saying, but the fact is that many leaders don't make the time for that. I think that there is this, and it's true, when you become higher up in the organization, you have less time. I don't necessarily agree with that philosophy. I think it's how you allocate your time and what you prioritize, but it seems like one of the first things that gets deprioritized is having and maybe it doesn't need to be high touch, but a medium touch connection with everyone in the room. And frankly, what you're saying is I think that makes the difference if people leave or stay many of the time. And so, yeah, I love what you're saying. I want to touch on the global piece of it for a moment because you have a really unique experience in working across the globe. I went to India a few years ago and I absolutely love the people, love the culture, and it was probably one of the best professional work environments that I've been part of just because of that true community feel. Everyone knows everyone. And it was just a real family environment, but people still worked really hard. And I think oftentimes people confuse having a close, connected environment with not being productive. So do you have any experiences to share of working between cultures? I know you mentioned in Europe there's a bunch of different subcultures. I can attest to this as well. So share a little bit more on your global experience in working with teams.
Yes, I have experience with, for example, the team in France, team I was leading, and that was probably my second or third experience leading, but it was a different experience than my previous experiences. And as you said, yes, culture differentiate, and you as a leader need to be a bit careful on that side. It's not necessary the way I interact with my leaders in India, it's same in Europe or in other countries. So that's how this situational leadership comes into the picture. So you need to decide where you want to be as a leader in those situations. You want to be a teacher like a leader, you want to be a mentor like a leader, you want to be a guide, or you want to be a facilitator only. So depending on the culture and depending on the team configuration, when I say team configuration, are there responsible, accountable, remote senior people available in the team? If yes, give them more accountability and you become as a facilitator so that you handle only the blockers, rest all is being taken care by the team locally. But yes, if you think the team is new and it needs more guidance, so yes, nowadays solution comes through remote, but earlier there was no remote solution. You have to really visit those places and the sites quite often. So I made sure at least once in a quarter I am in Europe. So to meet the team, to interact with the team, to face their challenges, and I'm very happy to tell you there was one person who was really performing a part in one of my French team experience. And I was wondering what is the challenge actually. And when I met and talked to him, I realized the person is going through a very lean phase in his personal life. So we decided to give him some space to really recover out of it and do it, and everything got sorted out in a couple of months then.
It seems like you create that environment that allows for employees to feel comfortable and safe and share that. What, on the opposite end, do you think that employees can do more in terms of, I know you set up the teams that they have the ability to thrive, to grow, to communicate, to feel heard, but what do you also expect from the employees? Because I do think it's a two-way street, right? You can set up the environment, right? And you can create everything in place, but there is work needed from the employees. So any advice that you can give?
Okay, if you take it as an advice, I always believed in two-way communications. So I put across the point, I am sincere about what I do for the team or for the work. And I expect the same. Of course, it is not always 100% possible you get back at the similar level of sincerity and the hard work and the professionalism. But more or less, if you are okay within the team 90%, it should be your team can be in the category of called that performing team. So my expectation from the people, true to yourself, nobody is perfect in this world. Communicate openly. If I don't communicate to you, you don't know what I'm thinking in my mind. And similarly, if somebody doesn't communicate as a leader, I really don't know what is the mind. Even if it is, I get less salary this appraisal, or I didn't get a promotion since last 3 years, or these are so many things which are, comes to the employee's mind. Their growth is stagnant in this organization. I'm not getting it good work. This is one part. Be sincere to yourself. If you are sincere to yourself, you will be sincere to the organization. Second, another important point is give your 100%. If it is not enough for the organization for your 100%, it means there is some gap on the skill side, and that will facilitate the leader to identify that gap and to manage that skill development for you. So you should not hide behind anything else for something else. For example, the real problem is a skill, but you are okay, I'm not getting enough time, I'm not getting enough support, that department is not replying quickly, or there are lack of resources, and so on and so forth. These all create inefficiencies in the organizations. Although as a leader you should identify those, but if team communicates openly, it really helps further.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And I think a big piece of what you're talking about that I know I struggled with it when early on in my career of that self-identification of my gaps, right? Or I knew them, but I thought that communicating them to my manager would show that I wasn't capable, and I felt like I was capable. So, what advice do you have for my younger self in that situation that realizes that I have things to work on, but I don't want to tell you because you're my manager?
So this is very natural, actually. This is very natural. And it's not only you, it's everybody. It's me when I was young. It's the same question was coming to my mind. But now try to understand, if I go today and to tell my manager, I need to understand agentic AI more, because less people in this world knows agentic AI anyways. And I am also one of them. So that will help. Secondly, yes, we'll have to, as leader, judge an employee, employee also judge a leader. You may wait for that conducive environment to come where your strengths are also appreciated. For example, if you are having a lot of strengths, which everybody has, those are also clearly spelled out along with one area of improvement which you want to improve. So it will give you a shield. It's not, I'm not a good engineer. I am good engineer in this. But yes, this one of the area will make me even better.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting on, you work with engineers, obviously, and I know folks well beyond just engineers, but I think that engineers are particularly intelligent in their practice, right? But what are some of the skills that you typically see that engineers are passing over that are really important for their professional growth?
The skills, you mean the technical skills or?
The non-technical skills, the softer skills.
Yes. So soft skill, as I said, communication is very important. Along with communication, it's binding with your, okay, when I am talking about communication, it's verbal communication, but it's connectivity with your body language. You can be appreciating something in your words, but if your face is not aligned with that appreciation, it doesn't go well.
Yeah. It's so interesting you say this, because yesterday I was on a call with a very experienced leader, and I think immediately he wasn't interested in speaking with me. I guess he had thought, well, once after the first introduction, I wasn't relevant for him or interesting to him, whatever it is. And he physically turned his body and started doing other work on our call, which is 15 minutes. And frankly, if he didn't want to be there, or if I wasn't interesting, or he didn't want to speak with me, there was a very easy way for him to get off the call. But it was just so impactful with a slight body turn, multitasking, how that could make such a difference in the way that you're perceived. And the way I perceive him, and he could be the most accomplished businessman in the world, frankly, I never want to do business with him again. So it's just so interesting that you're right. Things like body language, signals, not being present for someone completely adjusts the way that you're perceived professionally.
Very right, what you are saying. One more advice, what I think should go, which I'm very open to my team. And sometimes the HR department or the managers, some, not all, never liked that. But I always tell that in the long term, it is beneficial for the organization. And what I tell them, keep evaluating yourself. Keep checking your employability. You are working for the organization, my organization, where I am working. I have a different role. You have a different role. And that's the only difference. We both are working for the same organization. And when we do day-to-day work, we are engaged so much in the organization work, we really don't know how much in the skill set perspective, either hard skill or the soft skill, we have really grown in a year or 2 years or 3 years. So if not more, take your December vacation time and check for your employability status. Why will other organization other than this will give you a job? Why? It's a very true question to yourself. And if you don't have enough answer, it should ring an alarm bell, and you must focus on the identified skills and keep working.
Amazing advice. So every episode of No One Tells You This ends the same way, and I'm going to ask you to finish a sentence. There's no right answer here. The best ones come from your gut in the moment, okay? So the thing that nobody told me but changed everything I figured out was blank.
Okay, so I will go back to the previous one. It is same, not only your hard skills or the engineering skills are important, but other skills, your communication, your presentation, the way you talk to the team members and the managers or the subordinate, everything else, everything keeps a package for you for your growth in the organization and to understand all the center point in the organization.
Amazing, amazing. I want to thank you so much. You have tremendous experience and you're still showing up for my little podcast here and being able to share it with the next generation. And that's exactly what this show is all about. So, to everyone listening, if this conversation gave you one thing to think about, encourage you to share and send a message on what that was. I'm Laura Massetti, and this is the No One Tells You This podcast, and we'll see you next time. Thank you so, so much for being here.
Thank you very much, Laura, for having me here, and good wishes to all of the employees or to-be employees, students, and everybody listening to it. Good luck.
Where can we find you after this?
I am available through my LinkedIn.
Wonderful, wonderful. We'll put everything in the show notes so we can contact you to maybe follow you, get some advice, and understand what else you're building and what folks can learn from you. Okay, until next time, thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.